What if I told you that The Rock's entire business empire was built on a single piece of advice his grandmother whispered to him when he was 12 years old? Advice so simple that he dismissed it for years, until one night in 2006 when everything clicked. But to understand why this family secret was so powerful, you need to know about the tragic event that almost destroyed the Johnson family legacy forever. It was August 15, 1984, and 12-year-old Dwayne Johnson was sitting on the front porch of his grandmother's small house in Honolulu, Hawaii, trying not to cry. Inside, his parents were having another screaming match about money, about his father's wrestling career, about whether they should stay in Hawaii or move to the mainland for better opportunities. The Johnson family was broke. Again. Rocky Johnson, Dwayne's father, was a talented wrestler, but the wrestling business in the 1980s was unpredictable and often unfair. Promoters would promise payment that never came, bookings would get canceled at the last minute, and wrestlers were constantly at the mercy of politics they couldn't control. Despite being skilled enough to work for major promotions, Rocky struggled to provide consistent financial stability for his family. Dwayne's mother, Ada, was doing her best to hold everything together, but the stress was taking its toll on everyone. They'd been evicted from 3 different apartments in 2 years, and Dwayne had changed schools so many times that making friends felt pointless. That's when his grandmother, Lia Maivia, sat down beside him on the porch. Lia was a remarkable woman, the matriarch of the Maivia wrestling dynasty and one of the most respected figures in the Pacific wrestling community. She was small in stature but enormous in presence, with eyes that seemed to see through people's facades straight to their potential. "Dwayne," she said in her gentle but firm voice, "I want to tell you something important. Something that your great-grandfather taught me when I was younger than you are now." Dwayne looked up at his grandmother, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "When your great-grandfather came to Hawaii from Samoa, he had nothing," Lia continued. "No money, no connections, no guarantee of success. But he had something more valuable than any of those things." "What?" Dwayne asked. "He understood that every family is either building something or destroying something. There's no middle ground. Every decision, every sacrifice, every moment of pain or joy, it's all either adding to your family's legacy or taking away from it." She pointed to the house behind them, where his parents' voices could still be heard arguing. "Your parents are scared right now because they're thinking about today's problems. But the most successful families think in generations, not months. They plant trees that they'll never sit under so their children and grandchildren can have shade." Dwayne nodded, but at 12 years old, the concept felt abstract and distant. "Grandma Lia," he said, "how do you know if you're building or destroying?" His grandmother smiled and leaned closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. "Every time something bad happens to you, ask yourself one question. How can I use this to make my family stronger?" She paused, making sure he was listening. "Pain is either wasted or invested. Most people waste it by complaining or giving up. But smart people invest it by learning, growing, and making sure their children never have to experience the same pain." She stood up from the porch, smoothing down her dress. "Dwayne, I want you to remember this conversation. Someday, when you're older and facing your own struggles, remember that every setback is really a setup for a comeback, but only if you choose to use it that way." At the time, it seemed like just grandmother wisdom, the kind of advice that sounds meaningful but doesn't immediately change anything. Dwayne went back inside, his parents eventually stopped arguing, and life continued with its usual unpredictability. But that conversation planted a seed that would grow into something extraordinary. Fast forward to 2006. Dwayne Johnson was at the peak of his wrestling career and transitioning into Hollywood with increasing success. He'd starred in several movies, was making more money than he'd ever imagined, and seemed to have everything figured out. But he wasn't happy. Despite his professional success, Dwayne felt like something was missing. He was reacting to opportunities rather than creating them, taking roles that were offered rather than building something uniquely his own. He was successful, but he wasn't building anything lasting. That's when his grandmother's words came flooding back. It happened on a quiet Sunday evening in his Los Angeles home. Dwayne was reading business magazines, trying to understand how other celebrities had built lasting empires beyond their initial fame. As he read about entrepreneurs who had created multi-generational wealth, he remembered sitting on that porch in Hawaii 22 years earlier. Every family is either building something or destroying something. For the first time, he truly understood what his grandmother had meant. The Rock wasn't just an entertainer, he was the foundation of a family legacy that could last for generations. But to build that legacy, he needed to think beyond his current success and start creating something that would benefit his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. That night, Dwayne made a decision that would change everything. He called his business manager the next morning with an unusual request. "I want to start a production company," Dwayne said. "But not just any production company. I want to build something that can create opportunities for my family for the next 50 years. His business manager was confused. "Dwayne, you're already making great money acting in other people's movies. Why complicate things by producing?" "Because," Dwayne replied, remembering his grandmother's wisdom, "I want to plant trees that I'll never sit under." That production company became $7 Productions, named after the $7 Dwayne had in his pocket when he was cut from the Canadian Football League in 1995. But more than just a business venture, $7 became the vehicle through which Dwayne would apply his grandmother's philosophy of generational thinking. Instead of just taking acting jobs, $7 would develop projects that showcase stories and values that the Johnson family wanted to pass down. Instead of just making money, the company would create opportunities for other family members to learn business skills and develop their own careers. But the real transformation came when Dwayne started applying his grandmother's other lesson. "How can I use this to make my family stronger?" Every setback in his career became a learning opportunity that he could share with his daughters. Every business challenge became a case study in perseverance that he could teach to future generations. Every success became not just a personal victory, but a building block in a larger family legacy. The philosophy proved its worth during one of the most challenging periods of Dwayne's career. In 2017, his movie Baywatch was a critical and commercial disappointment. The film was mocked by critics, underperformed at the box office, and led to questions about whether The Rock had finally found his limits as a movie star. But instead of treating it as a failure, Dwayne applied his grandmother's wisdom. He gathered his $7 Productions team for a company-wide meeting. Instead of making excuses or assigning blame, he used the Baywatch experience as a teaching moment. "This movie didn't work," he told his team. "But we're going to use this disappointment to make our next 10 movies better. We're going to study what went wrong, learn from our mistakes, and make sure we never repeat them." More importantly, he involved his daughters in the conversation age-appropriately, but meaningfully. He explained to them that success isn't about never failing, it's about learning from failure and becoming stronger. "Grandma Lia taught me that pain is either wasted or invested," he told them. "We're going to invest this pain so that when you're older and running your own businesses, you'll know how to handle setbacks." The results were immediate and dramatic. $7 Productions became more selective about projects, more hands-on in development, and more focused on creating content that would have lasting value. The company's next major project was Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, which became one of Dwayne's biggest box office successes and proved that the lessons learned from Baywatch had been worthwhile. But the real validation of his grandmother's philosophy came in 2019, when Forbes named Dwayne Johnson the highest-paid actor in the world for the second consecutive year. In the Forbes interview, Dwayne revealed the family secret that had guided his career transformation. "Everything I do is filtered through one question that my grandmother taught me when I was 12 years old," he said. "How can I use this to make my family stronger? Not just financially stronger, but emotionally, intellectually, and spiritually stronger." He went on to explain how this philosophy had shaped every major decision in his career. When he negotiated movie contracts, he didn't just think about his own compensation. He thought about creating opportunities for his production company that could employ family members and friends for decades. When he launched his tequila brand, Terramana, he structured it as a family business that his daughters could inherit and expand. When he started his training and nutrition programs, he built them as educational platforms that could teach business principles to future generations of Johnsons. "My grandmother understood something that most people don't," Dwayne explained to Forbes. "Individual success is temporary, but family legacy is eternal. Everything I build is designed to last long after I'm gone." The power of this philosophy became even more apparent during the COVID-19 pandemic. While many celebrities struggled with isolation and uncertainty, Dwayne thrived by using the pandemic as an opportunity to strengthen his family bonds and build new revenue streams. He started a series of social media conversations with his daughters about business, resilience, and leadership. He used his platform to highlight family-owned businesses that were struggling during the pandemic. He invested in companies that aligned with his family's values and could provide long-term stability. Most importantly, he used the pandemic as a real-time case study in applying his grandmother's wisdom. "How can we use this global crisis to make our family stronger?" became the guiding question for every decision during 2020 and 2021. The results spoke for themselves. Despite the entertainment industry's challenges during the pandemic, Dwayne's business empire continued to grow. 7 Bucks Productions signed a first-look deal with Netflix, Teremana became one of the fastest-growing tequila brands in history, and his social media influence reached new heights. But the real success wasn't measured in dollars, it was measured in the strength of the family legacy he was building. In late 2021, Dwayne's daughter Simone Johnson signed with WWE to begin her own wrestling career. But unlike previous generations of wrestling families, where children often felt pressure to follow their parents' exact path, Simone was making her choice from a position of strength and support. During her WWE announcement, Simone credited her father's business philosophy with giving her the confidence to pursue her dreams. "My dad taught me that every generation should build on what came before while creating something new," she said. "I'm not trying to be The Rock. I'm trying to be the first Simone Johnson, using the foundation he built to create my own legacy." That statement would have made Lia Maivia incredibly proud. Today, the philosophy that began with a conversation on a porch in Hawaii has become the operating manual for a business empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Dwayne's production company develops projects with an eye toward long-term cultural impact, not just immediate profits. His business investments are evaluated based on whether they'll provide opportunities for his children and grandchildren. His social media presence is used to model the values he wants to pass down to future generations. But perhaps most importantly, he's teaching his daughters to ask the same question his grandmother taught him: how can I use this to make my family stronger? The secret wasn't complex business strategy or insider knowledge. It was a shift in perspective from individual achievement to generational building. It was understanding that every decision is either adding to or subtracting from a family legacy that will outlive any individual success. Lia Maivia died in 1988, when Dwayne was just 16 years old. She never got to see him become The Rock, never saw his Hollywood success, and never witnessed the business empire he would build. But in many ways she was the architect of all of it. The porch conversation that seemed so simple and abstract to a 12-year-old boy became the foundation of one of the most successful entertainment careers in modern history. Every time Dwayne makes a business decision, he's applying his grandmother's wisdom. Every time he turns a setback into a comeback, he's investing pain rather than wasting it. Every time he creates an opportunity for his family or community, he's planting trees that he may never sit under. The Rock's empire wasn't built on wrestling moves or movie roles or social media followers. It was built on a family secret that transformed how he thought about success, failure, and legacy. Sometimes the most powerful business advice comes not from Harvard Business School or Fortune 500 CEOs, but from grandmothers who understand that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, it's measured in the strength of the family you leave behind. Disclaimer: this story is created for entertainment purposes only and is not based on real events. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. The content is fictional and intended for humor and storytelling purposes.